Hello student, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Vishwanath Tiwari from Central University of Rajasthan. Today we are going to discuss on a module that is known as forces involved in enzyme stability and catalysis. This module has been taken from paper Molecular Enzymology and Protein Engineering. So, what is the objective of this module? So, in this module, we want to discuss what are the different covalent and non-covalent forces that are involved in the stability and catalysis of the enzyme. We will discuss how the different non-covalent forces like hydrogen bonding, ionic interaction, hydrophobic interaction, van der Waals forces and covalent interactions are involved in the stability and catalysis of different enzymes. We will also study what is the significance of these forces in stability and catalysis. So, you know that enzyme catalysis is influenced by stability because enzyme are biomolecules. So, any biomolecule is going to be dependent on the stability for its function, and the forces which involve in the stability of enzyme are very important. At the same time, we also know that we have different substrate that bind to the active site. They also involve some forces. So, the forces involved in the stability as well as catalysis of enzyme. Therefore, it is important to discuss the different forces involved in the stability and interaction of ligand and enzyme. As you know that the enzyme specificity for a particular substrate is dependent on the interaction between side chain residues and the substrate. It is the interaction between side chain and substrate which will decide the mode of action, the type of catalysis. For example, if they are associated with weak forces, then you have the reversible reaction. If they are associated with the strong forces, then we have a long stabilized intermediate states. So, information about interacting residues is not only important to study the catalysis, but it is also important to design specific inhibitors which are important in biological system, because inhibitor can regulate, can modulate the function of enzyme. The interacting forces which are present between enzyme and its substrate is a basis of drug designing using bioinformatics. So, in this module, we will discuss about different covalent interactions as well as non-covalent interactions which are involved in the catalysis and stability of the enzyme. The different type of interactions that are involved in the stability and catalysis are classified into two groups. The first is covalent catalysis and second is non-covalent interaction are involved in the catalysis. The non-covalent interaction involves different forces. The first one is hydrophobic interactions, second is hydrogen bonding, third is ionic interaction, and fourth is van der Waals forces. And covalent interactions involves disulfide linkage as well as some covalent bonds that is formed during the covalent catalysis. The first non-covalent interaction is hydrogen bonding. So, what is the hydrogen bonding? Hydrogen bonds are weak electrostatic interaction formed between a weakly acidic donor group and a acceptor atom which have lone pair of electron. Why weakly acidic group? Because if we have strongly acidic group, it will never have hydrogen along with its donor. So it always release the hydrogen and become D minus, donor minus. So therefore, when you are talking about the hydrogen bonding, we require weakly acidic donor group. An acceptor atom having electron, so they will have hydrogen bond formation between hydrogen which is attached to the donor and acceptor atom which is having lone pair of electron. So in biological system, donor and acceptor are usually oxygen, nitrogen, or sometime occasionally sulfur. On the basis of type of hydrogen bonding, we have three type of hydrogen bonding. The first one is intramolecular hydrogen bonding, second is intermolecular hydrogen bonding, and third one is a symmetrical hydrogen bonding. Intermolecular hydrogen bonding are formed between two molecules. For example, when you are talking about enzyme, it is a one molecule, that is substrate, that is other molecule. It may be formed between beta sheet of the protein, but when you are talking about the beta sheet of the protein, that the beta sheet must be coming from two different polypeptides. One such example is amyloid peptides. So when amyloid peptide formation take place, where the amyloid peptide is oligomerized, they are independent amyloid peptide and they are oligomerized because of the beta sheet interaction. So that is considered as an intermolecular hydrogen bonding. The another example of intermolecular hydrogen bonding is quaternary structure. So when a quaternary structure are basically the structure of the proteins or enzyme which consist of multiple subunits. So multiple subunits are associated with each other by forming the intermolecular hydrogen bonding. The intermolecular hydrogen bonding are also formed when you're talking about double-stranded DNA. The second class is intramolecular hydrogen bonding. So intramolecular hydrogen bonding is formed when we have hydrogen bonding within the same molecule. For example, when the substrate is covalently linked to the active site of the enzyme, then they are forming ES complex, but they are considered as a single molecule. The second example of intramolecular hydrogen bonding is alpha helix and beta sheets of same polypeptides. So within the alpha helix and beta sheet, we have intramolecular hydrogen bonding, and tertiary structure of the protein, when they undergoes folding, they are also forming hydrogen bond, and the nature of hydrogen bond is intramolecular hydrogen bonding. And if you remember the transfer RNA also forming the hydrogen bonds during its folding. So most of the hydrogen bonds that are formed when we have hydrogen atom present closer to the donor atom. But there is another specific case of hydrogen bonding where the hydrogen atom is exactly present in the middle of donor and acceptor. So this specific case of hydrogen bonding is known as symmetrical hydrogen bonding. Although it is rare, but we have few examples where symmetrical hydrogen bondings are formed. One such example is hydrogen fluoride, another example is formic acid under high pressure. The energy of hydrogen bonding in biological system is dependent on the type of donor and acceptor that is present in hydrogen bonding. For example, if donor is oxygen and acceptor is nitrogen, then the energy of hydrogen bonding is 6.9 kilocalorie per mole. But if donor is oxygen and acceptor is also oxygen, then hydrogen bond energy is 5 kilocalorie. If donor is nitrogen and acceptor is also nitrogen, then energy is 3.1 kilocalorie. If donor is nitrogen and acceptor is oxygen, the energy is 1.9 kilocalorie. And hydrogen bond that is formed in the water is having energy of 4.3 kilocalorie per mole. So you can see that there is a difference in the hydrogen bond energies that is formed between different donor and acceptor. Similarly, bond length of hydrogen bonds is also dependent on donor and acceptor atom. So based on distance between donor and acceptor atom, hydrogen bond are either weak hydrogen bond if you have more distance between donor and acceptor, that varies from 4 angstrom to 3.2 angstrom, then the energy is lower than 4 kilocalorie. Or it may be a moderate hydrogen bond where the distance between donor and acceptor is relatively smaller. They have distance of 3.2 angstrom to 2.5 angstrom with the energy of 4 to 14 kilocalorie per mole. Hydrogen bonds may be strong hydrogen bond if they have energy 14 to 40 kilocalorie, and the distance between hydrogen bonds are 2.5 to 2.2 angstrom. So in this way you can see that when the distance between donor and acceptor decreases, then strength of interaction or energy of hydrogen bond increases. Most of the hydrogen bond that is formed in biological system have the moderate bond length, and its energy varies from 3.5 kilocalorie to 5.5 kilocalorie. For example, the mean distance between donor and acceptor in protein secondary structure and DNA are close to the 3 angstrom, and this 3 angstrom comes under moderate hydrogen bond length. The typical hydrogen bonds that are observed in the active site and the substrate, they are not very strong, but they are varying in the energy from 0.5 kilocalorie per mole to 8 kilocalorie per mole, that is dependent on the distance between active side chain atoms and the substrate. So the role of hydrogen bonding in the stability of enzyme can also be linked with the osmolytes induce protein stabilization. So what are osmolytes? So osmolytes are the molecule that alter the protein stability without directly interacting with the proteins or enzymes. So osmolyte basically changing the environment around the enzyme, and then they are inducing stability towards the enzyme structure. So protective osmolyte such as trehalose and sorbitol. Trehalose and sorbitol both are the carbohydrates. So they increase the stability of enzyme in the concentration dependent manner. We can also link the hydrogen bonding role in the enzyme stability with the help of urea denaturation. As you know that urea is a denaturant which breaks hydrogen bonds and causes protein and enzyme denaturation. So we can monitor the stability of an enzyme by performing the experiment using urea as a denaturant. After discussion of hydrogen bonding, let's have discuss ionic interactions. So ionic interactions are electrostatic interaction that is formed between oppositely charged ions such as cations and anions. Most of the ionic interaction that is formed between two components of salt, as you know that salt have one positive and one negative counterpart. For example, NaCl, we have Na plus and Cl minus. Similarly, if a ionic interaction is formed, one side of ionic interaction is positively charged, another side is negatively charged. So you can say that this ionic interaction is behaving like a bridge between two components of the salt. That's why the name salt bridges are given. They are also known as ion pair interaction because they are the interaction between two pairs of ions. In case of the enzyme, most of the ionic interaction are formed between positively charged residues such as epsilon group of lysine and gonadinium group of arginine, as well as negatively charged residues such as beta carboxylic group of aspartic acid and gamma carboxylic group of glutamic acid. So when you are talking about ionic interaction in the enzymes, aspartic acid and glutamic acid, which is negatively charged side chain, interacting with the positively charged side chain of lysine and arginine. Salt bridges or ionic interaction that is formed between two amino acid residue if the distance between two charges are less than 4 angstrom. The ionization condition of these amino acids are very important for the formation of salt bridge. Therefore, if you change the ionization condition, then the ionic interaction will alter. And the well-known condition which changes the ionization of groups is the pH condition. So therefore, pH have influence on the ionic interaction. The contribution of the salt bridges in the stability of the enzyme and its interaction can be determined with help of thermodynamic analysis after site directed mutagenesis and chemical shift using NMR spectroscopy. So in these methods we are monitoring how a particular substrate is interacting with the enzyme, how a particular enzyme is stabilized by the different environments and different conditions. The salt bridges can be as strong as 22.4 kilocalorie per mole, which is formed between glutamic acid 27 and arginine 387 in human salivary alpha amylase, where the side chain centroid is 3.7 angstrom apart. If you see the hydrogen bonding, this particular same case of this salivary alpha amylase, they are also forming strongest hydrogen bond known with a bond length of 1.94 angstrom, which is even smaller than the normal hydrogen bonding when we are talking about in any biological systems. So it is also important to note that solvent exposed residues of enzymes form weak ionic interaction as compared to buried residue that is present in the core of the enzyme. In the figure you can see how glutamic acid is forming electrostatic interaction with the lysine. They are involving negative charged oxygen of glutamic acid and positively charged nitrogen of lysine. The same group can also form hydrogen bonding, but in that case oxygen of glutamic acid is involved, but hydrogen of epsilon amino group of lysine is involved. So you can say that the epsilon amino group of lysine forming electrostatic interaction, while hydrogen present on the epsilon amino group forming hydrogen bonding. So the same epsilon group, same side chain of lysine is involving in two type of interaction. Not only that, they are also going to involve in van der Waals forces, which will be discussed in this module. After discussion of hydrogen bonding and ionic interaction, the next type of non-covalent interactions are hydrophobic interactions. So what is a hydrophobic interaction? Hydrophobic interactions are non-covalent interactions that minimizes contact of the hydrophobic or non-polar molecules with aqueous hydrophilic or amphipathic molecules. In other words, in simple words, it provides tendency of non-polar molecules to aggregate in the solution. So hydrophobic amino acids such as isoleucine, valine, leucine, phenylalanine, methionine and cysteine, they are playing a significant role in the process of protein folding or enzyme stability in native folded form. During the folding, they means hydrophobic amino acids moves into the core of the enzyme while hydrophilic amino acid remain present at the surface. So hydrophobic interaction playing significant role in the stability of DNA being involved in the base stacking. So you can say that hydrophobic interaction are playing role in the stability of DNA, stability of the protein, stability of the enzyme. Question arises, from where these hydrophobic forces comes? So hydrophobic forces arises due to the entropic effect which is originated from disruption of highly dynamic hydrogen bonds of liquid water by hydrophobic residues. So when you are putting a hydrophobic residue into the aqueous environment, they are displacing the water molecules, and that leads to the cleavage of the hydrogen bonds. So after disruption, the hydrogen bonds reorient in such a way that it form a super ordered orientation or cage-like structure around the hydrophobic residues, which restricts the mobility of hydrophobic side chain, and that results into varied hydrophobic residues. And this is the reason of folding of proteins or enzymes. The energy of hydrophobic interaction formed because of movement of methyl group is around 2 kilocalorie, while movement of hydrophobic amino acid such as valine, leucine, isoleucine can have the energy up to 5 kilocalorie. As you know, we have mesophilic enzymes which are normal enzymes, thermophilic enzyme which are thermostable, cryophilic enzymes which are found in the cold condition. So what is the difference in the structure of thermophilic enzyme from mesophilic enzyme? How a cryophilic enzyme differ in structure from mesophilic enzyme? Because they all have different stability of the enzymes. So first we will discuss how a thermophilic enzyme is going to have thermostability. So when the sequence of a mesophilic enzyme is compared with a thermophilic enzyme, then it was found that first thing is most of the amino acid in mesophilic enzyme such as alanine, glycine and normal amino acids which is neither more hydrophobic neither more polar, they are replaced by either more hydrophobic residues such as isoleucine and leucine or more ionic residues such as lysine and glutamic acid. So, in this way, in thermophilic protein, we will have more hydrophobic residues and ionic residues as compared to its homologous mesophilic enzymes. So, this provides additional number of hydrophobic interactions and ionic interaction, and this particular additional number of interaction basically provides the additional thermostability to thermophilic enzyme, because when we want to break these additional interactions, we have to spend more energy, and that more energy comes in the form of more heat that is required to break these bonds, or you can say to denature the proteins which are enzyme which is present in thermophilic organisms. Similarly, when you are talking about cryophilic proteins, as you know that cryophilic protein are surviving in a condition where we will have lower temperature. So, when we have lower temperature, the cryophilic protein or cryophilic enzyme is going to freeze. So, they must adopt the substitution and changes that allows cryophilic enzyme to not freeze. So, what are the modifications they have? So, when you see a mesophilic enzyme and you are comparing it with a cryophilic enzyme, the following changes you can see. The first change is the clustering of glycine residues, because glycine, as you know, they doesn't have any side chain. So, they have hydrogen in the place of side chain. So, they are giving you additional flexibility, and that additional flexibility inhibits the freezing of your cryophile enzyme. The second point what you will see is there are reduced frequency of proline residues in the loops, which enhance the chain flexibility, because proline provides rigidity to the enzyme structure. So, when you have less proline, the enzyme structure is more flexible. The third modification or change which you can see is a reduction in the arginine residue. Why? Because they are mainly involved in the salt bridges and hydrogen bonding. So, if you reduce the number of arginine and sometimes lysine, then we will have less ionic interaction as well as less hydrogen bonding. We will also see that there is a reduced hydrophobic forces, which shows that the cryophile enzymes are surviving in a cryophilic condition because of reduced interactions, which increases the flexibility of cryophilic enzymes. After discussion of hydrogen bonding, ionic interaction and hydrophobic interaction, let's have discussion of van der Waals forces. So, what are van der Waals forces? Van der Waals forces is a non-directional, weak electrostatic, attractive or repulsive forces that is formed between electrically neutral species. Van der Waals forces, because they are forming between electrically neutral species, therefore, you can say that if a molecule doesn't have charge, still we will have van der Waals forces. For example, we have NH group, a peptide bond, CO group of peptide bond. So, in NH group, because nitrogen have more electronegativity than hydrogen, so shared electron will move toward nitrogen, so it has a partial negative charge, while hydrogen have partial positive charge. Similarly, in CO bond, Oxygen is having more electronegativity than carbon, so oxygen is having partial negative charge and carbon is having partial positive charge. Based on molecules or atoms or side chains involved in the interaction, van der Waals forces are divided into the four categories. The first one is Kissam force, where there is a attraction or repulsion between two permanent dipoles. The second one is Debye force. It is formed when a permanent dipole is present in the vicinity of a non-dipole. That permanent dipole induces a non-dipole molecules or atoms to, to undergo shifting of its electron to create an induced dipole. So the Debye force is an interaction between a permanent dipole and induced dipole. The third class is London dispersion force. So because of presence of electron in an atom, they are revolving around the proton. So because the movement of electron around the proton, there is a formation of transient dipoles. So when two such transient dipole interacting with each other, they are forming London dispersion forces. The fourth class is repulsive forces, which result from the Pauli exclusion principle that prevents collapse of the molecule. All the van der Waals forces are independent to the temperature except Kissam forces, which is formed between two dipoles. And van der Waals forces are weakest non-covalent forces and they have energy of 0.1 kilocalorie to 1 kilocalorie as compared to the hydrogen bonding which have energy varies from 2 kilocalorie to 30 kilocalorie. Electrostatic interaction which have energy varies from 1 kilocalorie to 20 kilocalorie. Hydrophobic interaction which is having energy less than 10 kilocalorie, and pi-pi aromatic interaction which is having energy less than 10 kilocalorie. So van der Waals interaction, when we are talking about number of interaction, they are highest in number because every atom that can have electron that can form van der Waals interaction. Therefore, they are highest in number, or you can say they are highest at the molar level, and they are playing a significant role in the interaction of enzyme with its substrate. The van der Waals forces is so significant. If you remember a lizard walking on the glass, lizard have relatively weak van der Waals forces, but the number of van der Waals forces that is formed in the spatula of lizard food pad and glass surface is important, and because of excessive number of van der Waals forces formed, they are responsible for holding lizard to the glass plate. The Gibbs free energy for van der Waals forces can be calculated using the formula delta G is equal to A divided by r की power 12 minus B divided by r की power 6 plus Q1 Q2 upon D into R, where A is the constant for electron cell repulsion or repulsive forces, B is a constant for dipole-dipole attraction, Q1 and Q2 are the partial charges on two interacting atoms, R is a distance between two interacting atoms, and D is a dielectric constant of the medium. So van der Waals forces are going to be influenced by charges or partial charges present on the interacting atom as well as dielectric constant of the medium. If you remember, the dielectric constant of the medium always inhibiting the any interaction. For example, if you have a van der Waals force into the water, then it is going to be weak as compared to the van der Waals force in the ethanol, because ethanol having dielectric constant around 24 and water having dielectric constant around 80. So the van der Waals forces is approximately 4 times stronger in ethanol as compared to the water. After discussion of non-covalent interaction, we will discuss now what is the contribution of covalent interaction in enzyme stability and catalysis. When you are talking about enzyme stability, the covalent interaction are rarely involved because only the disulfide linkage are important for the stability of enzymes. But when you are talking about catalysis, then they are very important because they are involved in covalent catalysis as well as intermolecular catalysis. So during the covalent catalysis, the transient covalent bonds are formed between substrate and active site, which reduces the energy of transition state and facilitate the reaction. The contributor groups of active site are regenerated after the catalysis. These covalent forces are contributed by forming covalent bond between hydroxyl group of the serine when you are talking about nucleophilic catalysis, or from lysine when you are talking about electrophilic catalysis. So if you remember the chymotrypsin, so the serine is playing important role in the covalent interaction. When you're talking about aldolase, that is of glycine glycolysis, then CIF base or lysine are playing important role. After discussion of different forces that is involved in the enzyme stability and kinetics, let's have discuss what is the significance of it. So information about the forces involved in the stability and catalysis of the enzyme will help in engineering stability into a less stable mesophilic enzyme and converting it into a thermostable enzymes by using site directed mutagenesis or by in vitro directed mutagenesis. So mesophilic enzyme that has lower thermogen stability but having more specificity, more catalysis, they can be converted, they can be engineered into an enzyme which is having higher thermostability along with the enzymatic activity. So DNA shuffling, site directed mutagenesis, site saturated mutagenesis are some approaches that are used to artificially design active site of the enzyme, which can alter efficiency as well as specificity of the enzyme. For example, lactate dehydrogenase can be redesigned into the malate dehydrogenase with the mutation of leucine 91 to arginine by site directed mutagenesis. So you can say the forces in contributing in the stability can be manipulated, can be altered by protein engineering. So students, let's summarize what we have discussed in this module. So in this module we have discussed what are the different forces that are involved in interaction between active site and substrate. We have discussed what is hydrophobic interaction, what is hydrogen bonding, what is van der Waals forces, what is covalent interaction. We have also discussed that van der Waals forces are highest at molar scale and they are important when you are talking about interaction between substrate and enzyme. We have also discussed what is the contribution of hydrophobic forces, what is contribution of ionic interaction, what is contribution of covalent interaction in terms of enzyme stability and its catalysis. We have also discussed how you can design a thermostable proteins or enzyme, how we can modify the catalysis of a particular enzyme using DNA shuffling, site directed mutagenesis, or other methods. So, therefore, you can say that non study of non-covalent as well as covalent forces that are playing role in enzyme stability and catalysis. They are significant if you want to have designing of noble molecules for enzyme, if you want to design a mutant enzyme with high efficiency and processability. Thank you.